This week's edition of the Heel to the Face podcast, we're joined with two different people. Jeff Hall's right here. You can find him on Twitter at DJ Halls. And my friend Mark Garlock. So much to talk about. A tape show, and we'll be mostly talking about another tape show. As the Heel to the Face podcast starts right now.
So silence your cell phones. Hold your applause. And tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Brandon and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So no Brandon Clements this week, but the Heel to the Face podcast is still on the air as we are joined with two people who've never been on the show before. My good friends, Jeff Halls. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at DJ Halls. You can find Mark Garlock, well, nowhere except for Facebook if you want to Facebook friend him, and myself at K-Rock. Jared, this is the Heel to the Face podcast. We are always taped here at the Heel to the Face podcast, but this week we're talking about a lot of taped wrestling. Normally we're talking about live wrestling on the show, but as of right now, Wrestlemania is in the books. We won't know for about a week and a half what goes on, hopefully. Are you going to stay away from the spoilers? We'll start there. Let's start here. With Wrestlemania being taped, are you going to stay away from the spoilers, Jeff?
Yes.
Yes. What about you, Mark?
Well, they had to slide it in last second because the law changed in Florida, and they said the crew was very small, and if somebody leaks it out, they said that Voodoo Kin Mafia will find them and have their neck.
Voodoo Kin Mafia, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. From what I heard, he was the only person on board with making WrestleMania even happen. From what I've heard backstage rumors, everybody did not want WrestleMania to happen. I know none of us wanted it to happen.
Nope.
His son and myself were supposed to go to WrestleMania 1 week from today, but either way, it's going on. In fact, it's already gone on. So I guess my thing is, with WrestleMania the way it is, what are your expectations, Jeff? Let's start with you. What are your expectations for WrestleMania this year?
It's been such a depressing last 3 weeks. I guess when I start watching it, I'm going to try to be as positive as possible. Being though that I've worked in the business and I'm a fan, it's going to be kind of depressing, really. We're going to have to watch it taped with no fans.
So you're familiar, you guys are familiar with the House of Horrors match. So I'll ask you, you watched a House of Horror match a couple years ago, and from rumors are a lot of the WrestleMania matches are going to have that kind of post-crazy production feel to it. Is that something you think that is going to make this better, or would you rather see the straight-up matches with no fans? Like, do you want to see the Hollywood aspect to it? Do you want to see them really make this different? Like, what are your expectations here?
Well, it's not a good time for Matt Hardy to defect because he's the master of those matches.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure Bray Wyatt can do something. There's a couple other matches on the card that I'm sure they can pull off. Drew McIntyre winning the title, that's just not, they're probably not even going to do it now. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre,
You're going to crown the guy's 10-year journey. A 10-year journey. The guy was the chosen one. A 10-year journey that culminated in him returning to the World Wrestling Entertainment, getting where he's gotten in a very short order since he came back. He rose right through NXT, came back, got pushed, and now he's right there. His for the taking, and,
I mean, we learned that with last year with Kofi Kingston, that when your time comes, it's a short window. I mean, we learned with Kofi Kingston last year, just because you're on top at WrestleMania doesn't mean that you're there forever. So you got to enjoy that moment when it comes, because it's, for a lot of people, it's kind of fleeting. It doesn't mean like a John Cena moment. It could be, this could be his one and only shot. And
who's to say that Vince doesn't change his mind and call it audible at the last minute? He's done it so many times before and decides not to put the belt on.
I could see him waiting to do it till SummerSlam for Drew McIntyre, if at all now, because, things have changed.
Brock's been very vocal about not doing the show, so it's going to be interesting if we do see Brock at all.
Now, with WrestleMania the way it is, I want to ask you guys, do you see WWE doing anything when everything is all set and clear to kind of make up for this? Maybe not just for the fans, but in general, like put on another show, maybe bring something back to Tampa. Do you see this? We were talking about the NBA and the NFL and how with this big layoff is going to affect things going forward. They're talking baseball into November, they're talking basketball into August. Do you see anything like that happening here with WWE when they come back finally in front of fans again, Raw, SmackDown? I mean, I think it's going to be a big Raw or SmackDown when they come back in front of fans again. They're going to treat it bigger, but do you see them kind of making up for this fact that 80,000 people missed out on a WrestleMania and try to do, I don't know, like a Super Showdown?
Well, because the NFL starts, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have Tom Brady. That's the big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, well, yeah, stadium-wise, it would be some of your hands on a stadium.
Vince come back and do it somewhere else? Sure he can. But, geez, I mean, we're talking WrestleMania, guys.
The moment's passed because he didn't postpone it. So the moment will be passed. It'll be on to the next venue. The show goes on. A man fell from the rafters in '98. The show went on.
Yeah,
true. The show goes on.
True story.
That's the way Vince has always operated. It doesn't surprise me. The problem with wrestling, not the problem, but the way that WWE set up, it's very soap opera based. It's very storylines based. We all enjoy it, but they're not going to hold the storylines for 4 months. They're just not going to do that. So the decision to go on with the show is to complete the storyline. I, for one, would expect them to take some time off after this. Okay, you get WrestleMania out of the way, then it might be time to take a little bit of time off and regroup here. And we'll see what happens.
That'd be great if it was something that they kept going forward with the time off after WrestleMania, because I've, even way before this, always been kind of a proponent of if WrestleMania is your Super Bowl, and we all love the Raw after WrestleMania,
sure.
But I think right after that would be a great time to take time off, maybe just a couple weeks or two, skip the little April pay-per-view that they have. I know, obviously, with WrestleMania going on, Vince McMahon is all about the dollar signs everywhere he goes. But if there was ever a time to take time off on the calendar, it's right after WrestleMania.
Remember, guys, we got 5 or 6 essential talent that is going to be nearing the end of their contracts. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a very interesting time for this, as you call it, Jared, a window. So if I was Vince and I was in his shoes, and we all know Vince McMahon can be very, impatient, I would take that time, repackage who you need to repackage, and wait, play the waiting game like we all have to. We all have to do it.
Every sport's done it. Every orifice of life except for pro wrestling, which I love pro wrestling. The show always goes on. I mean, bottom line, bottom dollar, the show always goes on in pro wrestling, but with no crowd and no fans.
How are you enjoying it, Jared? How do you like watching it on television with no fans, honestly?
Well, it's not just that it has no fans, but in general, obviously, we've seen tons of replays of matches. They replayed the whole Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And, personally, I would rather wrestling have just stopped. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that WrestleMania can't be interesting. I think WrestleMania has a chance to be really unique and really interesting. And a lot of people are saying, could this be the best WrestleMania of all time? Because they're going to be able to do things and try things out that they've never done before. This WrestleMania, I don't think it's just going to be a bunch of matches in front of no crowd. I think this is going to be something strange and close, a Hollywood backlot brawl mixed with the House of Horrors, mixed with what we saw with Matt Hardy a couple years ago.
My hope would be that you're right about this, but the problem is it's still a shit show because it's thrown together in 2.5 weeks' time.
Yeah.
You would say it's a chance to be the greatest of all time, things that have never been done. However, in 2.5 weeks, what are you really doing? And you're rushing these guys down from wherever they are, flying them in, quarantine 2 or 3 superstars already. It just, to me,
the whole 2-night
I hope I'm surprised. I hope you're right.
I think the 2-night thing is just, a crutch that they're using because they know that, they might not have all the talent that they have in all in one place, and they got to film things here and there. And I think the 2-night thing is pretty much just a crutch so that you can, maneuver more with what you're saying, working on the fly, have a couple matches here, have a couple matches there. One night they probably want to do it live that way. And now the more you look at it, the more you realize it really can't be live because they're just working on the fly with, we don't even know.
I give him kudos so far for all the shows that have been on TV and the talent that has worked in front of no fans and as professional as they've been. I give every last one of them. They've all, even with Brock, you noticeably that he's uncomfortable. Stone Cold, who always needs an audience to do what he does. They've all been very professional. I give them a lot of credit.
Well, that's across the board, even in AEW, even in Impact.
The wrestling stuff, it was outstanding, actually, to be honest with you. The one with Brody Lee, that package was great.
Well
done. Before we move, I want to move on to AEW real quick. But before we move on to AEW, finishing off Monday Night Raw, or WWE, WrestleMania, WWE in general. Do you see the one thing I want to say? Do you see Vince McMahon taping it, and one of the things he's going to do is remove some of the talk in the ring? Do you see him removing talk from the ring?
Oh, jeez, I hope not.
Because I think that's part of the reason why I feel like this is taped too, because the matches that are in the ring, if these are WrestleMania matches versus Monday Night Raw, SmackDown matches.
One thing I gotta say, as far as the pageantry of the show, like everybody saw Gronkowski debut the other night, and that's got to be the biggest dumpster fire I've ever seen.
Awful.
The guy came out dancing the jig to an empty arena.
Awful.
Looked horrible. I mean, This is Rob Gronkowski, and he's hosting the thing. So if anything,
did
they
it
need
feel
to
rushed to you, Mark?
Oh,
Did it feel very rushed to you?
they need to cut down some of the stuff, cutting promos to empty chairs, I mean, I'd rather see a return of some of the old school stuff. Obviously, Mean Gene's not with us anymore, but bring in a personality like a Mean Gene and host the segments in the backstage. Let Paul Heyman do it. Let somebody do it,
Yeah, I mean, I
talking to chairs is just talking to chairs. And
Coach is still out there. Coach would be great at.
Where's Corey Graves been in all this?
He's been home. He's been doing his podcast. I just listened to it today.
But
staying safe.
I mean, he's one of the most instrumental. Do you feel that he'll be a part of WrestleMania or no? Do you think it's just going to be Michael Cole, maybe a little Triple H?
Says he's going to be there. I was listening to, he interviewed Mandy Rose today. He says he plans on being there.
Triple H being there is no accident. Triple H being there with Michael Cole is making a stand. Triple H is in the front lines. That's the kind of guy that Triple H, Paul Levesque is, and he's always been for the business.
Yeah.
He's not going to shy away. And same when Vince was younger. Vince wouldn't ask you to jump off a ladder if he hadn't already done it himself and cracked his own spine in 3 places. Those are the types of guys that these guys are. And there's something to be said for the promoters as far as that goes. Before I let you switch gears, because you're the host of the show, but with AEW, before we go to that, one little tidbit I had to mention, and I sent the article to Jeff earlier. If Phil Brooks, CM Punk, is not the biggest troll of all time, hopefully the story's true. He's claiming WWE begged him to be on WrestleMania. If the story's not true and this guy's just trolling the world, go away. Go away, Phil Brooks.
Yeah.
You got your ass whipped in UFC. You're 170 pounds. You got your ass whipped in professional fighting twice. Once by a 40-year-old who never had any professional fights. The believability of you at this point is very low. For you to put yourself up there on this kind of a pedestal and keep trolling fans, just go away.
I feel that he wouldn't be saying he's currently, I don't want to say under contract with the company, but he's under contract with Fox. And he's got, that's pretty much a relationship with WWE. You're pretty much at WWE at that point. Yeah. So I feel that if he's saying that, he wouldn't be saying that if there wasn't any sort of truth.
Vince himself came out and refuted it, and he said not only is it not true, he said CM Punk has so many mental health issues he wouldn't even touch him with a 10-foot pole. Coming from Vince McMahon, who's accepted everybody from Ultimate Warrior to Bret Hart to anybody and their mother back into the company. I mean, at this point, CM Punk has just been holding the whole wrestling world hostage. You're 40, going on 42, 43 here. You're 170 pounds right now. What are you doing?
Yeah, and I agree with Mark. If you're not going to forgive and forget and get back to business and do what's good for business, then shut up and move on.
If you don't want to be in it, don't be in it. That's fine. Don't be in it. I'm fine.
I'm a big fan of him, Jared. Huge fan.
He's kind of like Brock Lesnar, but with his mouth versus wrestling.
Yeah, but Brock takes bumps. Brock gives good matches.
Yeah, well, exactly. But he does it with his mouth, where he kind of like is always just a teaser all the time. He wants to show up sporadically every so often to kind of just boost the ratings. I remember there, years ago, he sent out something. He showed up at that Indie Wrestling Federation for one night just to kind of get feelers out there, boost the ratings up real quick, and then go back to nowhere.
I'm not going to say that his pipe bomb wasn't one of the greatest moments ever. I rewatch it all the time. I'm a big fan of his in-ring work his whole career. But since he's left the scene, which, let's be honest, was 2012, 13 now? Guy's whittled down to 170 pounds. He runs around to Comic-Cons and does whatever he does, just promoting his own brand, but he's nothing for wrestling. He came back as a way to laugh at wrestling. He's kind of a I don't know what you would say, a caricature of himself at this point, you know what I mean?
So, AEW last night, Vince McMahon not so happy with AEW as Brody Lee's little segment in the back. Did you catch Brody Lee's segment in the back?
I did watch it this afternoon.
I didn't realize so much it was a take on Vince McMahon. I just thought it was the Exalted One eating steak, not letting anyone eat steak before he was done eating steak. And Vince McMahon and everyone in the back said that was pretty much a direct shot at Vince McMahon.
Well, everybody knows everyone knows the sneezing story, and I know Hall's is big. Even Stephanie McMahon's mentioned it before. You can't sneeze around Vince. It's a weird thing.
Sign of weakness.
They cut a direct promo. Brody's frustrated. He had a good run there. He became Intercontinental Champion. To a lot of fans, putting him down, saying, well, he's the one that got hurt. WWE gave him the tools to push him. The guy was the most over member in the Wyatt family at one point. He should have beaten AJ Styles, and he should have went on and had that title shot. Those things didn't happen. Unfortunately, he never got any mic time in WWE. I didn't think he much needed it because he was a Bruiser Brody. He came from that type of cloth, and I didn't think he needed a lot of interview time at the time. But everybody's picked him apart online. Called him a glorified jobber, all kinds of stuff, a mid-carder. The point is, and Cody said it best, Jared, the cream of the crop as far as talent will come to the top. They're not doing their talent based on you went to WWE. Yeah. This guy is a 20-year veteran. He's wrestled in Japan. He started in Rochester, New York. We used to set up rings with the guy 20 years ago. The guy's been all around the globe applying his craft. It's merit-based, and that's what AEW has said. They're merit-based. They bring in the top talent, regardless of where they've been. You're going to have some crossover. It's happened in every federation, every time, every decade.
But I will say this, though. There's too much worried about the WWE. Listen, Jared, at first I didn't want to believe you. You and I argued about it before. They're never going to be that because of all the international networking and obviously the WWE network itself. Okay, they should just worry about being their own brand. You're always going to get crossover talent. That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? People can say whatever they want, but it happens. But you just worry about being your own freaking brand and do what you do best. And they got a lot of good talent over to get it done. I mean, production, you're never going to beat WWE. It's not going to happen. No. They got the best production out there. Do you agree, Mark?
They're pretty. What they are is they're pretty much what Impact Wrestling should have hoped to be. Impact Wrestling, I think, went a little too far, and they tried to compete with WWE, and that was one of their downfalls.
Right.
They tried to put themselves on Monday night. They tried to get themselves too many Hulk Hogan Stings, and AEW is doing it right. They plan to be essentially an alternative. They plan to be the XFL. They plan to be, not the WWE. And the XFL was doing good being the XFL, and that's what AEW really wants to do. Their ratings show that they can compete with NXT, but they're not even, their ratings with Raw and SmackDown are not even comparable. But hey, if they're competing against another televised wrestling program like NXT, that's pretty much it. I mean, NXT is WWE's own brand of alternative, so if AEW gets those same ratings, then it's the same audience, and that's what they're looking for.
And AEW's still finding its way, let's be honest. Yeah. They're a year in.
Hasn't been a year yet, has it?
Yeah. Well, no, they started in October. I mean, they had the pay-per-view last May that kind of kicked things off. But keeping with the AEW, and you talk about people making their way, is it a little too soon, or are you ready to see Jack Hager go up against Jon Moxley, the next championship
contender? Ready for it. I don't think Jack needs a big prelude of beating 150-pound jobbers in AEW. He's the biggest guy there. He looks like Andre the Giant in the ring compared to everybody else. He's a legit Olympic athlete, Division I wrestler. Great worker, many years in the business. I think he's ready. Why hold back? You know what I mean?
I'd say we met him, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him wrestle up and close, but, a lot of people are saying that maybe, he has a lot of jobbers in the past, but has he really gone up against somebody of his size recently? And some of his in-ring work the last couple weeks, or since we've seen him, it looks like it could be a little.
Is he a little rusty? I haven't.
He does look a little. He does look a little rusty. That's been one complaint.
To me though, Bobby Lashley was not rusty when he came in from TNA. It's 2.5 years later, and he still never faced Brock. Where's the match?
Well, yeah, I mean,
WWE has a real history of not having Brock go against Batista, not pitting their two biggest stars against each other, and they've been doing that ever since the early WrestleMania days. It makes no sense at all. It makes no logical sense in booking, terms of millions of dollars, everything else. Rock and Austin was the last real feud we had where it was the two biggest guys, and then The Rock came back to face Cena years later, but. You don't get that anymore in wrestling, and you don't get it in WWE. So if AEW is ready to pull some triggers and try to do some stuff with the roster that they do have, kudos to them.
So finishing off AEW from last night, I don't know if you caught it, but Matt Hardy did kind of what we might be seeing towards WrestleMania. He was in the rafters of the arena, and then all of a sudden a bunch of split shots, I guess, and he made his way down to the ring via magic. Do you like that kind of stuff in wrestling? I mean, it looks like that could be a lot of the kind of stuff we see at WrestleMania, the overproduced theatrical element. Is it too much? Do you think AEW should not be doing that at all? Are you okay with AEW doing some WWE kind of tricks?
To me, certain guys can pull it off, and Matt Hardy's one of those guys.
Absolutely.
Bray Wyatt's another guy, and each company has a couple of guys up their sleeve. But to throw that on a guy where it's unnatural, have a guy do that's not ready for it, no. Matt Hardy's a master with the audience. He's
storytelling.
30 years in the business, all that stuff.
I think at WrestleMania it would be The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt, essentially.
Would be the guys carrying the banner for that. Yeah. John Cena, another 20-year veteran,
It would just be kind of like going along with it, but I don't think they'd be doing any sort of magic themselves.
Jake Roberts came back and caught probably the best promo I've heard in about 5-10 years, and that's... This is a guy who came off his couch and cut the promo.
Yeah.
Some guys got it like that. Scott Hall's another guy. Some guys have that mind for the business, and it doesn't go away. When you love the business and you understand how it works and you have that type of psychology, it doesn't go away. To me, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt fall under that Jake the Snake type of psychology where they can do things that are extraordinary and beyond belief. they can suspend belief, so to speak. Steve Borden coming down from the rafters, he's another guy.
Well, he came down from the rafters, though, in a realistic... He wasn't live, like he showed up and then all of a sudden they cut the camera and he's flying all over the ring. I mean, he legit came down from the rafters. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to go, let Matt Hardy just do his thing. I think that's going to be a good gimmick with him. I really do.
Creative license is a big word right now, big buzzword among the indies and among the internet. And creative license is a big deal because in AEW you're seeing guys do more stuff that they're allowed to do. And you'll see guys like Matt Hardy, I think, will shine in that type of environment. I feel like he was probably handcuffed when he came in as broken Matt Hardy, as well woken Matt Hardy. He didn't have the full gimmick rights. Vince was never fully on board. They didn't really let him go as far as he could have went.
Vince watched that whole thing he did in Impact Wrestling with Jeff Hardy and said, if this gets a number and this gets over, then I guess I'm out of touch. That's a quote from Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know, I'll say Vince is a little bit out of touch. And obviously the fact that he's the only one that wants WrestleMania to go forward shows that, yes, he is indeed out of touch and wants to do this. But let's finish off the show. This past week, Vice started Season 2 of Dark Side of the Ring, the Chris Benoit story. And pretty much the question that finished off that episode is a question I want to pose to you guys. And that is, Chris Benoit, I'll start with you, Jeff. Is he and should he be in the WWE Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yes. What do you have any?
Listen, the guy obviously it was a black guy, but it's a black guy with Owen. It's a black guy with Brody.
Bruiser Brody.
Or not who's the guy that got stabbed down?
Yeah, Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, Bruiser Brody got stabbed. Those things kind of happen. I just can't take away his wrestling career for just one incident. Now, what's going to happen? I don't know. It's a sad story, obviously. But then again, steroids, CT, I mean, a lot of things could have caused that. We'll never know. But yeah, I think eventually he should go in.
What?
I am shocked that Owen Hart's not in. I know he's being blocked by his late wife. Yep. And I don't know if there's not family members in Chris Benoit's family on either side that might be able to block him going in. I don't understand. I don't know where the difference is, really.
Oh, no, I don't think that it's...
I know one was an accidental
Benoit's side that's blocking him from going in. I think it's Vince.
Yeah, but Chris, on that special that you mentioned, Chris Benoit's sister-in-law is on there.
Yes.
Nobody asked her feelings about it. Does she want him in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I mean
these are questions that need to be asked. I'm not in the family. I'm a fan. As a fan, yes, I say 100%. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time. His dedication to not only the sport, but just his dedication to life, to fitness, to just everything that goes into be a pro wrestler on that level. He's one of the greatest to ever do it, to ever lace up a pair of boots. That's without question.
You know, and I'll say this much. I'll disagree with both of you guys. I think he shouldn't be in the WWE Hall of Fame. And the reason I say that, I'll say this much. If we have a real Hall of Fame for professional wrestling, it keeps moving around. It's not that greatly funded. It was in Amsterdam. It was in Texas. There's rumors it might move back to New York. But in the real, actual Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, without the theatrics, without all the elements, that has a criteria. That's a Hall of Fame that has a criteria. In the baseball and basketball, they have criterias. The WWE Hall of Fame, I mean, outside of it just not being a physical building, is literally not even a Hall of Fame as much as it's just a show. In my eyes, it's a show they put on WrestleMania weekend to celebrate entertainment and wrestling. It's literally just like any other show on the WWE network that's just for entertainment. It's for, to remember certain people, to talk about wrestling. It's literally kind of what we're doing right now. It's just kind of like a, hey, let's get some old people together. We miss seeing Ultimate Warrior. We miss seeing Jake Roberts. Let's get them in a room, and kind of the same way you pay to see a podcaster or you pay to see, Mick Foley do his stand-up. It's kind of just an entertainment junket. They treat it a little more with the rings because they get the Hall of Fame, but we realize there's no criteria for the WWE Hall of Fame. People like The Godfather are in the WWE Hall of Fame. People like Val Venus will eventually be in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I think because of that fact that it is not like Pete Rose. It is not based off of numbers. It is based solely off of, there's a reason why Batista and Hulk Hogan don't go in the same year. In baseball, Batista and Hulk Hogan and Derek Jeter and Cal Ripken go in the same year because it's based off of the merit. It's based off the logistics of going in a Hall of Fame. It's not based off of, we don't want this guy in at the same year as that guy because we can draw more numbers.
Coco Beware in there.
Yeah, there's a reason why you have a headliner every year. There's a reason why you don't have 5 headliners. There's a reason why you throw these other people.
The better question,
fill 2 hours of time.
The better question for both of you gentlemen is, where's Woman? Woman should have been in the Hall of Fame 10, 12 years ago.
Now,
Woman is one of the greatest valets ever, and it's a lost art in the business, and Jericho mentioned it on the special. She's one of the greatest ever. She's up there with Miss Elizabeth, who I don't believe is in the Hall of Fame either.
She was with a lot of great talent, too.
And you're looking at these women that pioneered the sport. Before Diva Division, before Bra and Panties, before any of that, these women were coming out there, and they were a viable ringside asset to the audience.
And you were talking about
else.
Nancy Benoit's sister. Sister-in-law, but sister, and she talked about how after everything happened, unlike, Owen Hart or unlike Eddie Guerrero, the WWE didn't essentially reach out to that family. They didn't go out there and really do stuff like they did for Vicky Guerrero and essentially getting her a job. And that could be a way to bridge that. I think putting in woman, Nancy Benoit, probably using her maiden name, not Benoit, putting her in the Hall of Fame and having her sister come in and speak on her behalf, and pretty much making no mention of Chris Benoit, just doing, the time she spent with Kevin Sullivan and everybody else and everything else she's done in WCW and in, the world of professional wrestling. That would be a way to celebrate, I guess, the people who in this, are victims. That'd be a chance to celebrate David Benoit and Nancy Benoit, and the people who are victims who feel like they're not being...
David's the biggest victim of them all.
Yeah.
The man's an upstart young talent, idolized his father, looks just like him, spitting image. And who knows? I haven't seen him in the ring. I'm sure he's still green. He just started wrestling. This guy will never get looked at by WWE. Yeah. His only chance is that maybe AEW will throw him a bone. If WWE ever hired him, they put him under a mask. And that's how spiteful
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. WWE is entertainment. I mean, obviously, with what Wrestlemania is going to do, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. And I agree that I think he should be in the Hall of Fame because it's not just based off of the merit in professional wrestling. It's based off of, when people like Drew Carey and Snoop Dogg and Kid Rock are in the Hall of Fame because they figure having a celebrity come to the Hall of Fame will be a cool way to break it up between wrestlers and just have an appearance. That's what kind of Hall of Fame the WWE is. It's just for entertainment. It's really just for a show. It's really just like, the Kennedy Center Honors. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with that, but the Kennedy Center Honors is just where they take like a celebrity and they kind of just honor them for a night, or like the celebrity roasts they have in the past, Donald Trump and Alec Baldwin. They're not really giving them sort of real honors. It's just a way to make a Comedy Central special and to kind of, talk about them. They haven't talked about them in a while.
As much as I do agree with that point, which is a great point, there still is Nick Bockwinkel who's in. The Blackjack Mulligans are in. There is legendary talent that preceded anybody's entertainment realm that's currently a fan.
Bruno.
That are in there right now.
Yes.
Vern Gagne, Bruno Sammartino. There's real talent in there. So, yes, it's a mixture. To actual real wrestling fans, does it sting every single year when it comes up and Owen Hart's not on the docket? It does to me.
Drew Carey.
Yeah.
It's a mixture. Obviously, there's entertainment, but, there was no entertainment value when Nick Bockwinkel got put in.
It is still a celebration. It's a celebration of wrestling overall. But again, I think if they had some sort of criteria, they had some sort of way where when Godfather went in, he went in as Charles Robinson. He didn't just go in as one specific character. That's one thing I have a problem with. If this was a real Hall of Fame, you'd go in as a person. You wouldn't go in 3 or 4 times as different characters.
They put Scott Hall in as Scott Hall, right? He didn't go in as Razor Ramon.
Well, what helped is that part of his character at one time.
Oh, actually,
Scott Hall.
Twice.
Yeah,
he's going to go in Scott Hall,
and as
then
the
that first time he went, it was Razor Ramon,
and he's going to be a 3-time Hall of Famer before we're said and done because he's going into NWO and DX.
Right. Well, they were talking about that with X
or NWO.
What do you guys think about Sean Waltman going in again? Sean Waltman's going to be like up on Ric Flair's level, going in with NWO, going in with DX,
that's what I'm thinking.
Going in as 1, 2, 3 kid.
And that's got all his.
I still think Eric Bischoff should be with them instead of him.
I think it should just be the three originals and nobody else, and if anybody, Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all. I don't think he's not going to go.
It's Vince-A-Mania. It's the Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best scenario in all this is put woman in, and then have.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I think woman should definitely, and a lot of fans.
It wouldn't main event anyways because she's not alive, so she would. It's not like you would have to really lead off the show or make a big deal about it. It would just be a nice honor to her sister.
WWE did what they had to do. The fact that he'll never be mentioned again, I mean, it's what they had to do at the time. Pro wrestling was almost destroyed by it. I mean, it was,
sad.
Obviously, a lot of things can be discussed. Nobody thinks that Chris Benoit was in his right mind and did that, but it is what it is.
Vince McMahon does. He has clearly stated, obviously, on one side because of
he's trying to stay away from it because he doesn't want to be involved with the steroids and concussion issues.
Right.
But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Heel of Face podcast. Different cast and crew this week. I'm wearing a baseball jersey because today is supposed to be opening day, but it is not. Just like next week will not technically be WrestleMania. But if we have a show, we'll talk about whatever WrestleMania has to offer, and we'll try to stay away from the spoilers. For Jeff Halsey, Mark Garlock, and myself, at K-Rock Jared, make sure to follow the program on Twitter. This has been the Heel to the Face podcast.